The ship came out of faster-than-light travel with a soft hum. Through the window, could see the Galactic Unity Academy for the first time. It was beautiful. The station floated in the darkness of space like a giant flower made of metal and glass. Lights glowed from thousands of windows. Ships moved around it like small insects. Pressed her hand against the cold glass. She was 17 years old, and she was very far from home. "Attention passengers," said the ship's computer. "We will dock at the Academy in 10 minutes. Please prepare your belongings." Looked down at her small bag. Everything she owned fit inside it. Some clothes, a picture of her mother, a small stone from the beach near her home inn. She did not need much. On her wrists she wore 2 metal bands. They were gravity dampeners. The Academy required all humans to wear them. Without the bands, her natural strength would be too dangerous for the other students. Earth's gravity was much stronger than most planets, and humans had evolved to survive it. Their bones were dense. Their muscles were powerful. To the other species in the galaxy, humans were monsters from a death world. Did not feel like a monster. She felt like a scared girl going to a new school. The ship docked, and she walked through the long corridor to the Academy entrance. Other students were arriving too, but they came with families and servants and mountains of luggage. They were tall crystalline beings that reflected light like diamonds. They were massive creatures with 6 limbs and hard shells. They were small floating orbs that communicated through colors. They were 100 different shapes and sizes. And they all stared at her. Kept her eyes forward and walked. She could hear them whispering. She did not need to understand every word. The tone was clear enough. Fear, disgust, curiosity. "Is that a human? From Earth, the death world. Why would they let one of those here? My father says they eat raw meat. I heard they can break bones with their bare hands." Found the registration desk. A tall being with 4 arms and kind eyes looked down at her. "Name?" the being asked. "You from Earth?" The being checked a screen. "Ah, yes, the integration program student. Welcome to the Academy." The voice was warm, but could see the nervousness in the way the being's hands moved. "Your room is in Section 7, Level 3. Your class schedule has been sent to your personal device. Do you have any questions?" "No," said quietly, "thank you." She found her room. It was small but clean. A bed, a desk, a window looking out at the stars. She put her bag on the bed and sat down. She was alone. For the next 3 weeks this became normal. Woke up. She went to class, she ate, she studied, she slept. She did all of this alone. In class, the other students sat as far from her as possible. When she walked through the hallways, they moved to the sides like water around a stone. When she entered the cafeteria, conversation stopped. Understood, she had read about human history in the galaxy. For thousands of years, other species had watched Earth from afar. They had seen humans hunt. They had seen humans fight. They had seen humans survive things that should have killed them many times over. Volcanoes, ice ages, diseases, wars. Humans kept surviving. To the galaxy, Earth was not a planet. It was a test that should have been impossible to pass, and humans had passed it. So when they looked at, they did not see a quiet girl who liked to read and missed her mother's cooking. They saw a predator, a survivor, a thing to be feared. She tried not to let it hurt her. In her xenobiology class, the teacher asked a question about adaptive evolution. No one raised their hand, knew the answer, but she hesitated. If she spoke, they would stare at her again. They would whisper again. But the teacher was waiting. Raised her hand. "Yes, the human student," the teacher said. "Adaptive evolution is when a species changes over many generations to survive in its environment," said. Her voice was soft, her accent heavy. "On Earth, humans adapted to many different environments. Hot deserts, cold mountains, wet jungles. This is why humans can survive in so many places." The class was silent. The teacher nodded slowly. "That is correct, very good." Put her hand down. She could feel the eyes on her. She did not look up. After class, she went to the observation deck. It was usually empty at this hour. She sat by the window and ate her meal alone, looking at the distant stars. She did not notice watching her from the shadows was one of the largest species in the academy. He stood 8 feet tall, with 6 powerful limbs covered in natural armor. His father was Admiral, one of the most important military leaders in the Federation, had never known fear. His species had been apex predators for 10,000 years. Nothing hunted them, nothing challenged them. Until humans. When humans had first made contact with the galaxy, they had laughed at them. They were so small, so soft, so weak-looking. Then the reports came in. Humans could run for hours without stopping. Humans could heal from injuries that would kill other species. Humans could eat poisons that would destroy other digestive systems. Humans had tamed wolves, the predators of their world, and made them into pets. Humans had spread across their entire planet and changed its very climate. His grandfather had told him stories. Never trust a human, the old had said. They smile, but they are always calculating. They seem weak, but they are never weak. They are the most dangerous thing the galaxy has ever seen. Watch the small human girl eating alone. She looked harmless. She looked sad. She looked like easy prey. But knew better. Still, she did not belong here. This was a school for civilized species, not death world monsters. His father had complained about the integration program many times. Political nonsense, the Admiral had called it. One day, we will regret letting them in. Decided he would not wait for that day. He would show this human that she was not welcome. He would remind her of her place. He turned and walked away, already planning. Finished her meal and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, very far away, was Earth, was home, was her mother. She closed her eyes and made a wish. "Please," she whispered, "let tomorrow be better." She did not know that tomorrow would be much, much worse. 3 weeks passed like slow water. Each day was the same as the one before. Woke up, went to class, ate alone, studied alone, and slept alone. She spoke to no one except when teachers called on her. She walked through the academy like a ghost. But she was always being watched. Had been patient. His kind were hunters, and hunters knew how to wait. He watched the human girl every day. He learned her schedule. He learned her habits. He learned which corridors she used, which times she ate, which places she went to be alone. She was always alone. This made things easier. Had gathered his pack. There was a noble whose crystalline body shimmered with expensive modifications. There was, and whose compound eyes saw everything, and whose mind was sharp as a blade. There were, and young from good families who followed like shadows. 5 against 1. 5 seniors against one small human girl who kept her head down and never caused trouble. It would be easy. Tonight, told his pack. Deck 7 maintenance corridor, no cameras, no witnesses. They all agreed. That evening, finished her dinner and walked toward her room. The corridors were quieter than usual. Most students were in the recreation areas or studying in groups, preferred the silence. It was easier to be invisible when no one was around. She turned a corner and found her usual path blocked. Construction drones were working on something, their lights blinking in warning patterns. A small sign said the corridor was closed for repairs. Looked at her map. There was another way. It went through the lower decks, through the maintenance areas. It was longer, but it would get her to her room. She did not think about it much. She just walked. The lower decks were different from the rest of the academy. The lights were dimmer. The walls were bare metal instead of polished surfaces. The air smelled of machines and recycled oxygen. This was where the station systems lived, where workers came to fix things. Students rarely came here. Walked through a long corridor. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. She was thinking about her xenobiology homework, about the essay she needed to write, about the message she would send to her mother later. She did not notice the figure blocking the corridor ahead until she almost walked into it. Stopped. Stood in front of her, his crystalline body catching the dim light. He was tall, almost 7 feet, and his face was impossible to read. They did not have expressions like humans did. Human said. His voice was like glass scraping against glass. Took a step back. She turned to go the other way. Was behind her. The wings buzzed softly as it moved to block the corridor. Its many eyes looked at her with cold intelligence. Going somewhere? Asked. His heart began to beat faster. She looked around. The corridor was empty. There were no doors nearby, no other paths. Then she heard the footsteps, heavy, powerful, coming from a side passage. Stepped out of the shadows, followed by in. The three filled the corridor with their massive bodies. Their armor-plated skin gleamed under the dim lights. Their eyes were fixed on her. 5 of them, one of her, stood very still. You should not have come here, said. His voice was deep and cold. This is not a place for your kind. I was just going to my room, said quietly. I do not want any trouble. Laughed. It was not a kind sound. Trouble. You are trouble. Your very existence is trouble. You do not belong in this academy. You do not belong among civilized species. I am just a student, said, like you. You are nothing like me, growled. He stepped closer. His 6 limbs spread wide in a display of dominance. On his world, this pose meant danger. It meant a predator was ready to strike. Did not step back. She had nowhere to go. My father says your kind should never have been allowed into the Federation, continued. He says humans are animals pretending to be people. He says one day you will show your true nature, and then everyone will see what you really are. Said nothing. Her hands stayed at her sides. Her breathing was steady. This seemed to make angry. He wanted her to be scared. He wanted her to beg or cry or try to run. That was what prey did. But she just stood there, looking at him with those strange human eyes. Do you know what we do to animals on my world? Asked. He moved closer. Now he was only a few feet away. We hunt them, we catch them, we teach them their place. I do not want to fight, said. Her voice was calm, but there was something else in it now, something harder. Fight? Laughed again. You think you could fight me? My ancestors were killing prey before your species learned to walk upright. You are nothing. You are weak. You are. He reached for her shoulder with one massive claw. Time seemed to slow down. Watched the claw coming toward her. She saw every detail, the rough texture of his armor, the sharp edges that could cut through metal, the confident way he moved like he had already won. In her mind, she heard her mother's voice. Her mother had been a soldier before was born. She had taught many things, how to be strong, how to be patient, how to control the power that lived inside every human. Never start a fight, her mother had said. But if someone forces you to fight, end it quickly, and never ever hold back. Had held back for 3 weeks. She had been quiet and small and invisible. She had let them whisper. She had let them stare. She had let them treat her like she was less than nothing. She was tired of holding back. His claw touched her shoulder. And everything changed. His hand moved faster than any of them could see. Her fingers closed around his wrist with a grip that should have been impossible. His armor cracked under her fingers. For one long moment no one moved, no one breathed. Then looked up and he saw something in her eyes that he had never seen before. He saw a predator. You wanted to see what a human really is, said softly. Let me show you. What happened next took exactly 10 seconds. In those 10 seconds, the universe changed for everyone in that corridor. In those 10 seconds, and his pack learned the truth about humans. In those 10 seconds, they learned why the galaxy feared Earth. And none of them would ever be the same again. The first second began with silence. His fingers tightened around his wrist. She could feel the structure of his armor, the way it was layered like scales on a fish. She could feel the muscle beneath. She could feel his pulse, fast and strong. He was trying to pull away. His 6 limbs pushed against the ground. His muscles strained with all their power. He could not move. Had never experienced anything like this. He weighed over 400 pounds. He could lift a small vehicle with ease. He had won every strength competition in his age group since he was a child. And this small human girl was holding him in place like he was made of paper. The first second ended. The second second was filled with pain. Twisted her wrist. The motion was small, precise, perfect. She had learned it from her mother, who had learned it in the military, who had learned it from teachers going back hundreds of years. Humans had spent their entire history learning how to fight things bigger and stronger than them. They had become very good at it. His arm bent in a direction it was not meant to bend. The sound that came from his mouth was not a word. It was not even a scream. It was something more basic, more animal. It was the sound of a creature that had never known pain suddenly learning what pain meant. The second second ended. The third second brought movement. Had finally processed what was happening. His crystalline brain was fast, faster than most organic minds, but even he needed time to understand the impossible thing in front of him. The human girl had stopped. The human girl had hurt. The human girl was dangerous. He raised his arms to attack. His crystalline body could generate powerful sonic waves. One blast would shatter her bones. One blast would end this. He never got the chance. Released and moved. She did not run. She did not jump. She simply moved, flowing through the space between them like water through cracks in stone. Her elbow connected with his chest. It hit a precise point where his crystalline structure was weakest, where the internal layers met at the wrong angle. She knew this point because she had studied xenobiology. She knew this point because humans always studied their environment, always looked for weaknesses, always prepared. Cracks spread across his body like lightning across a dark sky. He fell backward, his sonic weapons forgotten, his mind filled with nothing but shock. The third second ended. The fourth second belonged to. The was the of the group. It had known from the moment Kott's arm that something was wrong. It had known that they had made a terrible mistake. Species survived through chemistry. They could spray pheromones that confused enemies, poisons that killed in seconds, acids that melted through metal, opened its glands and released a cloud of chemical weapons. On any other species, this would have worked. The chemicals would have entered through the skin, through the lungs, through the eyes. The victim would have collapsed, paralyzed and helpless. Simply held her breath. Humans came from a world filled with poisons. Their ancestors had eaten toxic plants and survived. They had been bitten by venomous snakes and lived. They had developed resistances to things that should have killed them. And they could hold their breath for a very, very long time. The fourth second ended. The fifth second was for again. He was still trying to understand what had happened to his arm. The pain was overwhelming, filling his entire body with fire. But his species did not surrender. His species fought until they won or died. He swung his good arm at with all his remaining strength. Was not there. She had already moved behind him. Her foot connected with the back of his knee, hitting the joint where his armor was thinnest. His leg buckled. He fell forward and was already turning toward her next target. The fifth second ended. The sixth second was chaos. Grabbed falling body and used his weight against him. She threw him, threw a 400-pound warrior, directly into. Tried to dodge but was not fast enough. They crashed together in a tangle of limbs and armor and wings. The chemical cloud dispersed. The corridor filled with the sounds of two bodies hitting the floor. The sixth second ended. The seventh second was for end. The two young had not moved since the fight began. They had watched in frozen horror as their leader, the strongest person they knew, was destroyed in moments. They had watched as fell. They had watched as was thrown aside like garbage. Now the human girl was looking at them. She was not even breathing hard. His mind screamed at him to attack. He was a predator, he should fight. But his body would not move. For the first time in his species' long history, understood what it meant to be prey. He understood what smaller creatures felt when they looked into the eyes of a hunter. He understood terror. The 7th second ended. The 8th second was movement. Stepped toward, and she did not rush. She did not run. She simply walked, calm and steady, like she had all the time in the world. Her eyes never left theirs. The 8th second ended. The 9th second was decision. Every instinct in his body finally agreed on one thing. Every cell, every nerve, every ancient part of his brain that remembered what it meant to survive, all spoke with one voice. Run. Run now. Run and never stop. Reached the same conclusion at the same moment. Without a word, without a signal, they both turned and ran. They ran faster than they had ever run before. They ran like their lives depended on it. Because they knew in that moment that their lives did depend on it. The 9th second ended. The 10th second was silence. Stood alone in the corridor. Around her lay 3 bodies. Was groaning, clutching his broken arm. Was still, his cracked body flickering with internal light. Was trying to untangle itself from its wings broken, its chemical glands empty. His breathing was steady. Her heart rate was normal. She had not even broken a sweat. She looked down at her hands. They were the same hands that had held her mother's picture this morning. The same hands that had turned the pages of her textbooks. The same hands that had reached out for friendship that never came. 10 seconds ago, she had been a quiet girl who just wanted to be left alone. Now she was something else. I really did not want trouble, she whispered to the empty corridor. I really did not want this. But the corridor did not answer. The only sounds were the groans of the fallen and the distant hum of the station's engines. Closed her eyes and let out a long breath. Then she turned and walked away, leaving the 3 seniors behind. She did not look back. The 10th second ended. But the consequences were just beginning. The Academy's medical bay was very quiet that night. Lay on a bed designed for anatomy. His arm was wrapped in a regeneration cast, the blue gel inside working to rebuild the shattered bone. The doctors said he would heal in a few weeks. They said he was lucky. He did not feel lucky. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it again. The human girl's hand closing around his wrist. The impossible strength. The calm expression on her face as she destroyed him. 10 seconds. Everything he believed about himself, about his species, about the universe, all of it broken in 10 seconds. In the next room was being treated by specialists. His crystalline body would never fully heal. The cracks would remain permanent scars that everyone would see. For a noble, this was worse than death. His family's reputation would suffer. His future would be limited, all because of one small human girl. Had already requested a transfer to another institution. They had not spoken to anyone since the incident. Its compound eyes stared at nothing. The psychological trauma, the doctors said, might take years to treat. And had not been injured physically. But they had not slept since that night. Every shadow made them jump. Every sound made them flinch. They had run from a fight. They had run from prey. The shame was overwhelming. The Academy's security team had noticed the stress readings. 5 students had experienced extreme psychological and physical trauma in a camera-dead zone. An investigation was required. Admiral arrived the next morning. He was larger than his son, older and stronger, with scars from 100 battles. He had commanded fleets. He had conquered worlds. He had never known defeat. Until now. Tell me what happened, the Admiral demanded. Said nothing, he stared at the wall. Son, the Admiral's voice was hard. Tell me who did this to you. Tell me and I will destroy them. Thought about answering. He thought about telling his father everything, about the corridor, about the human girl, about the 10 seconds that had changed his life. But then he remembered her eyes. He remembered the way she had looked at him before she let go, not with anger, not with hate. With pity. She had him. And somehow, that was worse than everything else. I fell, said, it was an accident. The Admiral stared at his son for a long moment. He knew it was a lie, but he also saw something in his eyes that he had never seen before. Fear. His son was afraid. The Admiral did not press further. He left the medical bay with more questions than answers. The investigation continued for 3 days. Security officers interviewed everyone who might have seen something. They checked every camera, every sensor, every record. They found nothing. Said he fell, said nothing at all, and claimed they had been in their rooms all evening. No one mentioned the human girl. No one said her name. No one wanted to admit what had really happened. Officially, the case was closed. 5 students had experienced a series of accidents, nothing more. Unofficially, everyone knew. Dr. Park sat in her office, reading the reports. She was the Academy's human liaison, responsible for the integration program that had brought here. She was 42 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and tired lines around her eyes. She had been like once, a young Korean woman alone among aliens. She knew what it was like to be stared at. She knew what it was like to be feared. And she knew what humans could do when they were pushed too far. She found in her quarters that evening. The girl was sitting by the window, looking at the stars. She did not turn when entered. You could have killed them, said. It was not a question. I know, replied. Her voice was soft, tired. Why did you not? Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her words came slowly, like she was pulling them from somewhere deep inside. On Earth, we learn control before we learn anything else. My mother taught me this when I was very young. She said that humans are dangerous. She said that we have the power to destroy anything we want. But she also said that power without control is just destruction, and destruction is easy. Anyone can destroy. It takes strength to hold back. Sat down beside her. The strong protect the weak. Nodded. My mother said that is what separates us from animals. Animals kill because they can. Humans choose. We choose to protect. We choose to spare. We choose to be better than our instincts. And the 5 students who attacked you finally turned to look at her. Her eyes were sad but clear. They were weak. They just did not know it. They thought strength meant hurting others. They thought power meant control over weaker creatures. But that is not strength. That is fear dressed up to look like courage. Studied the young girl's face. She saw no anger there, no satisfaction, only a deep tiredness that was too old for someone so young. What will you do now? Asked. I do not know, admitted. I came here to study, to learn, to make friends maybe, but now, she looked back at the stars. Now they will fear me even more. Now they will never see me as anything but a monster. Perhaps, said, or perhaps some of them will see you clearly for the first time. Did not answer. That night she sent a message to her mother. She did not explain what had happened. She did not describe the fight or the aftermath or the empty silence of her quarters. She just wrote 3 words. I miss you. Her mother's reply came an hour later, crossing the vast distance between stars in the blink of an eye. I miss you too, my daughter. Stay strong. Remember who you are. Remember what we taught you. And remember that being gentle is the hardest kind of strength. Read the message 3 times. Then she closed her eyes and slept. In the medical bay lay awake. His arm hurt. His pride hurt. Everything hurt. But mostly his mind hurt. He could not stop thinking about the human girl, about the way she had held back, about the pity in her eyes, about the words she had said. I really did not want trouble. She had meant it. He knew that now. She had not wanted to fight. She had not wanted to hurt them. She had just wanted to be left alone. And they had not let her. For the first time in his life, wondered if his father was wrong. He wondered if strength meant something different than he had been taught. He wondered if the human girl knew something that his species had forgotten. He wondered if he had been the weak one all along. The night passed slowly. The academy floated through the darkness of space, and somewhere in her small room, a human girl dreamed of home. The aftermath was over, but a new beginning was waiting. 1 month had passed since the incident in the maintenance corridor. The academy continued as it always had. Classes were taught, students studied, ships came and went. On the surface, nothing had changed. But beneath the surface, everything was different. The whispers about it changed. Before, they had been filled with disgust and fear. Now they were filled with something else: curiosity, wonder, respect. The story had spread, even though no one would admit to knowing what had really happened. 5 seniors had cornered the human girl. 10 seconds later, 3 of them were in the medical bay, and 2 were running like frightened children. Some students said it was impossible. Humans were small and weak-looking. How could one of them defeat 5 large students? Other students began to research. They found the truth about Earth. They found videos of humans running for hours without stopping, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They found records of humans surviving injuries that should have killed them. They found stories of humans climbing mountains, crossing deserts, swimming frozen oceans. They found the real reason why Earth was classified as a death world. It was not because Earth was trying to kill humans. It was because humans had survived everything Earth threw at them, and they had come out stronger every time. Was one of these curious students. She was a young, barely 15 years old, and was her older brother. When he had come home with cracks across his body, she had been furious. She had wanted to find the human girl and make her pay. But then she had started reading. She read about human history. She read about their wars and their art and their science. She read about how they had tamed fire and invented the wheel and built ships that could cross the stars. She read about their music, their stories, their dreams. And slowly, her fury had turned to fascination. Humans were not monsters. They were something far more interesting. They were creatures who had every reason to be violent and destructive, but who had chosen to build civilizations instead. They had created beauty in a world of death. They had learned compassion on a planet that showed them none. One afternoon, walked to the observation deck. She had heard that the human girl came here every day to eat alone. She wanted to see for herself. Was there sitting by the window with a small meal. She was looking at the stars, her expression calm and distant. Hesitated. Her heart was beating fast. Everything in her education told her that this was dangerous. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were deadly. But was tired of being afraid. She walked forward. "May I sit?" she asked. Looked up, her eyes widened with surprise. In 1 month, no one had asked to sit with her. No one had spoken to her except when necessary. No one had treated her like a person instead of a threat. "Of course," said. She moved to make room. Sat down. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The stars turned slowly outside the window. The distant lights of passing ships blinked in the darkness. "I am," the girl said finally, "is my brother." His expression did not change, but something flickered in her eyes. Guilt, perhaps, or sadness. "I am sorry about what happened to him," said quietly. "I did not want to hurt anyone, but they—" "I know," interrupted. "I know what they did, told our parents it was an accident, but I made him tell me the truth. They cornered you, they threatened you, they attacked first." She paused. "You only defended yourself." Nodded slowly. "And you held back," continued. "You could have killed them, everyone says so, but you did not. You hurt them just enough to stop them and then you walked away." She tilted her crystalline head. "Why?" Thought for a moment before answering. "On Earth, we have a saying. The strongest person in the room is the one who does not need to prove it. My mother taught me that real strength is control. It is choosing not to destroy even when you can." Considered this. In culture, strength was displayed through power and dominance. The strong showed their strength, the weak hid. But the human way was different. The human way was to hide strength until it was needed, to be soft on the outside and hard on the inside, to choose gentleness not because you were weak, but because you were strong enough to afford it. It was a strange idea, but found that she liked it. "Tell me about Earth," she said. Smiled. It was a real smile, the first one had seen from her. It transformed her face, making her look younger and lighter and almost happy. "What do you want to know?" They talked for hours, told about the oceans of Earth, so vast and deep that humans had not finished exploring them. She told her about the mountains and the forests and the cities that glowed at night like fallen stars. She told her about Korean food, about the spicy soups and sweet rice cakes her mother made. She told her about music and movies and books. Listened to everything with wide, fascinated eyes. Over the next few weeks, others joined them. At first it was just a few curious students. Then more. Then more. They came to the observation deck during meals, sitting near's table, asking questions about humans and Earth and all the things they had been too afraid to ask before. Answered every question patiently. She was still quiet, still soft-spoken, but there was a warmth in her now that had not been there before. She laughed at jokes. She shared stories. She learned about the other species in return, asking her own questions about their worlds and cultures. The fear did not disappear completely. Some students still avoided her, some still whispered. But slowly, day by day, the atmosphere changed. In the cafeteria one afternoon, watched from across the room. His arm had healed, but the scars on his pride remained. He had not returned to his old group, and avoided him now, too ashamed to meet his eyes, had transferred to another school, stayed in his quarters, hiding his cracked body from public view. Was alone. But he found that he did not mind as much as he expected. He watched the human girl sitting with her new friends, laughing at something said. She looked happy. She looked free. And he remembered the pity in her eyes when she had let him go. She had seen him clearly that night. She had seen past his size and his armor and his family name. She had seen the fear behind his anger, the weakness behind his strength. And she had spared him anyway. Did not understand it. His whole life, he had been taught that strength meant domination, that the strong took what they wanted and the weak suffered. But the human girl had shown him another way, a way where strength meant protection, where power meant responsibility, where the truly strong lifted others up instead of pushing them down. He was not ready to accept this new way, not yet, but he was thinking about it. That night called home again. Her mother's face appeared on the screen, warm and familiar. "How is school?" she asked. Thought about and the other students. She thought about the conversations and the laughter and the small community forming around her. She thought about how much had changed in just 1 month. "Better," she said. "It is getting better." Her mother smiled. It was the same smile had seen 1,000 times, the smile that said, "I understand and I am proud, and I love you all at once." "That is my girl," her mother said. They talked for a while about small things, about the weather back home, about classes, about the stars outside her window. When the call ended, sat for a long time looking at the space where her mother's face had been. She was still far from home. She was still different from everyone around her. She was still the girl from the death world, the dangerous human, the creature that others feared. But she was not alone anymore. And that made all the difference. Outside her window, the academy floated through the endless darkness of space. Inside, Students from a dozen species slept and dreamed and prepared for another day. And somewhere among them, a quiet girl from Earth looked at the stars and felt, for the first time since she arrived, that she might actually belong here. The story was not over. There would be more challenges ahead, more misunderstandings, more moments when she would have to choose between violence and mercy. But was not afraid. She knew who she was. She knew what she stood for. She knew that the strongest thing she could do was to keep being kind, to keep being gentle, to keep showing the galaxy that humans were more than their strength. She closed her eyes and smiled. Tomorrow would be a good day. She could feel it.